Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this video I'd like to speak about the joy of luxury and a very interesting phenomenon. And the phenomenon is that people sometimes are unable to stop consuming luxury goods, even if it's not good for them, even it ruins their reputation, their families, it can end their lives, and they cannot stop. And we have famous examples for this. You can think of famous criminals or famous spies. Aldrich Ames comes to my mind here. Or you can think of YouTubers. There's this individual in Brisbane, Australia, who is in constant trouble because of his consumption of luxury goods. And you can think of very famous people like some dictators. Think of Robert Mugabe, former president of Zimbabwe, and his wife, Gucci Mugabe. She was named Gucci because of her binge shopping in London, whilst the population of her and his country were starving. Or take Vladimir Putin with his wristwatch collection, and people ask, is this clever? Is this really wise to go to that extent, to consume and buy luxury good to that extent that the entire world asks you, is this really clever? Is this a good move? And in this video we'll find out. And I want to present you three cases. First case is the dictator. You can see him as a CEO as well, somebody with uncontrolled power. Second case is the spy, somebody with secret power and secrecy. You can see him as a criminal as well. The third person, the third case is the neighbor, just your neighbor, maybe your neighbor. And the fourth case is you. Okay, and so let's get started. Is it wise to show off with luxury goods as a dictator? To answer this question, we have to see that normally a dictator is not alone, although we think this sometimes. But in most cases, he has his minions, his winning coalition, so to speak. Think of junta in South America. There you have the Generalissimo with his generals, and he needs his generals because every general controls a part of the army, and the dictator needs the army. Okay, so if you show those generals your nice wristwatch, then this is a sign. This is not the sign for the public, the starving public. This is the sign for your generals. Stick to me, be loyal, and then this could be your next watch. I am the man with the cash. I have the key here, okay? And so this is the sign, not for the public, but for your small coalition in your palazzo. Or think of Vladimir Putin. He's not, by the way, he's not classified 100% as a dictator, unfortunately, for this video, unfortunately. But he has done something very interesting. And we can see here something very interesting. He threw out every oligarch in Russia. And the oligarchs during the 90s, they really tried to ruin the country, and they took everything away, billions. And Putin stopped this. At the same time, he shows off his watch collection worth, what was it, 700,000 US dollars with a yearly salary of 200,000. He shows off, is this very clever? Is this wise when a common Russian citizen earns a year, let's say, what is it, 5,000 euros? I'm not sure, but in that direction. Is this really clever? Same thing, the watch is a sign for his dudes, his generals, not for the public. And throwing out all those oligarchs is another sign for his generals. Don't exaggerate this. You cannot ruin the country. I will hunt you down. I will kill you even in London. But you can take a little bit if you are loyal to me. If you're loyal to me, then you can take a little bit of the wealth of this country, but don't ruin the foundation we're standing on. And if you see it that way, consuming and owning luxury goods can be a very reasonable action for a dictator or a CEO or somebody with uncontrolled power. Can be very reasonable because it makes sure that the people around you are loyal. But there's a trap, there's a problem. Sometimes for some people the combination of uncontrolled power and wealth is too much. And then you have people like Muammar al-Gaddafi. I think Reagan called him the mad dog of the Middle East. Not exactly a diplomatic term, but I think it described very well the state of mind of Muammar al-Gaddafi. Or take Idi Amin, another complete lunatic. So this is the big problem, but first conclusion here, can be very reasonable to show wealth in a dead poor country because it's a sign for your people, for your buddies, for your coalition. And there are some exceptions here. Think of Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro was a watch owner, yes, but he wasn't famous for spending thousands and millions in London. at Harrods. No, wasn't the case. The other exception is Adolf Hitler was a millionaire because he sold millions of copies of his book, Mein Kampf, but he didn't spend much of it. By the way, interesting if you compare Adolf Hitler and Hermann Göring. As you can see, Hermann Göring had a weakness for the bling, but in most cases they spend money, they own luxury goods, and this for a purpose. Okay, the spy. And you can think of the spy as a person with secret power or secret funds, secret methods, right? And I want to speak about Aldrich Ames here. He was a CIA employee in the 80s and at the same time a spy for Russia. And in articles they characterize Aldrich Ames as some sort of narcissist. He was very fond of himself and he thought he deserves better. He deserves more money than the small CIA salary. And then he started to sell informations to the Soviet Union, $50,000 a piece. And there was then his secret cash flow. And Aldrich Ames started to spend the money. He bought a $500,000 house and a nice Jaguar car, and new teeth and everything, and he paid cash. And this raised suspicions, of course, and they hunted him down by his new habits. And you tried to explain this with inheritance, but it wasn't convincing. So he was caught because of his lifestyle. And now you can say, why that stupid action? Why did he spend the money like that so that everybody can see there's something wrong? And the reason is his psychology, but also the very unique and difficult situation of a spy or a criminal. Ames was not Idi Amin. He was not a monster. He was completely aware that this information he sold to the Russians were very dangerous material, especially for US spies in Russia. And as a matter of fact, the KGB executed at least 10 spies, US spies, CIA spies in Russia, with the information bought from Aldrich Ames. And Ames felt terrible. He wasn't the hero now, he was a bad traitor, felt terrible, had that pile of money, and what now? Only bad feelings. And he needed something to compensate those bad feelings, and so he had to spend money. He had to buy that nice Jaguar car. He had to buy that damn house, because he didn't want to find himself lost in misery, and so he had to spend it. And this was then, the end for Aldrich Ames. He's in prison right now, since decades. And how much he could have spent without being in danger, that we will discuss at the end of this video, at the last topic. But now let's go to the next case. Neighborhoods, great topic, because this is very easy to explain. You can see the value of your neighbor just like this. You can see his house, his car, his carport. Then you have this party at his house and you can see the interior. You can see his luxury goods. You can see his value. And if you live like me, in a capitalized society, then we are used to the idea that you can value the value of a human being with money and with goods and possessions, right? If I think this is good or bad, by the way, it's not the topic of this video. I think it's completely irrelevant. And this raises the question, is it reasonable exposing your luxury goods in front of your neighbors? And the answer is yes, because it's a sign. It's a sign to your neighbors that you are a valuable person in this community, in this neighborhood. You are equal. You have the nice car, your neighbor has the nice car. You have the Rolex, your neighbor has the Rolex. So very reasonable. All your neighbors know then if something here goes wrong, if we have to stick together to build something, broken road or something like that, they're absolutely sure that you will be there with your cash. And so, it's absolutely reasonable to show off a bit. The problem begins when somebody wants to be special. And I've explained this in the video, The Price for Happiness. If you want to be special in a neighborhood, then you need a little bit more than the other guy, than your neighbor. If your neighbor's net worth is, let's say, 500,000, then you should have 550 or 600,000. You don't need 5 million, of course, because then you would not be longer a member of this community, of this neighborhood, but you need a little bit more. And this led to the problem that then you are used to your new status as something special, somebody special. You want to be a little bit more special. And then maybe your salary is not big enough to finance this wish, this desire, and then you have to be creative with your funds. And then maybe there's this cookie jar in your local church, and small corruption cases and some sort of small white collar crime. Then this we see from day to day in the papers. And maybe somebody really wants the 5 millions then, and you want to change, you want to move in another neighborhood, and then he has to be even more creative. So we see again, can be very reasonable to own and consume luxury goods as a sign to your community. I'm here, I'm a valuable person in this neighborhood. Who are you? Are you the dictator, the spy, or the criminal, or the neighbor? How many luxury goods can you consume without being in this specific danger of your case? Let's assume you are the dictator or the CEO, somebody with really real big uncontrolled power. How much do you need? How many luxury goods do you need? Well, your luxury goods, as I said, are assigned to your generals, to your winning coalition. Guys, stick to me, I pay you, very good. Question here, how much? How much should you pay them? How big should your lifestyle be? If it's too big, if it's way too big, it will ruin the economy of your country or your enterprise, right? This would be really bad, because then the foundation is lost, the foundation, all of this. But if you pay too little, then your generals, your winning coalition, maybe they go to another CEO or another dictator or a revolutionary. A revolutionary would be terrible, who offers a little bit more, and then you have a revolution in front of your palazzo, and this will ruin your day quite substantially. And so yeah, then it's the end of the story. And so you have to control this balance between ruin your economy and keeping your buddies loyal, your generals loyal. This is then your task. I'm confident you will manage that. Okay, you are the spy, you are the criminal, you are Aldrich Ames. How much can you spend? How many watches can you buy? How many houses? Zero. Nothing. You can't buy nothing. You are in a very awful position. Very awful position. You are a traitor, let's face it. You feel pretty bad about that, being a traitor. You are afraid of the authorities. So if you spend cash, they will find you. And so very difficult situation. I don't feel any envy, to be frank. But last case, you are the normal neighbor. How much cash can you spend? How many luxury goods can you buy? To be precise, the same amount your neighbor spends. If your neighbor has a collection of 3 Rolex watches, then you can buy yourself 3 Rolex watches. If you want to feel special, then buy 4. But then danger begins. Maybe your funds are not sufficient. Maybe your salary is too small. Maybe you have to develop this creativity with money, cookie jar of the local church, and you know it. And so you have to be careful, again, a balance between showing your value to the neighbors, feeling special, and the danger to get in trouble by collecting unusual funds. And now you may say, sounds nice, but you're sitting in a glass house because you have exposed your watch collection in the last video. And middle class watch collection, why is that? This is not reasonable, man. This is not reasonable. You should buy yourself one nice watch, and not an entire collection. But, ladies and gentlemen, there's a nice way out, and this is the difference between consuming and ownership. I mean, consuming, if Idi Amin drinks a bottle of champagne, then the champagne is gone. If Fidel Castro buys a Mercedes-Benz and he drives 30 miles, then the value, 40% of the value of the car is gone. This is consumption. This is sheer consumption. And our governments love this, by the way. They call us not longer citizens, they call us consumers. In Germany, they call us Verbraucher. Even for German ears, this is a very, very ugly word, Verbraucher, consumer. But if you are a collector of finer things, then you know how you can go around this. You buy yourself a nice watch, used, good condition from a respectable seller, and then you sell 1 year later the watch in good condition from you as a respectable seller, and you will get your money back. 100% of your money back. This is not consuming, this is ownership. By the way, I'm wearing my Omega constellation from my granddad, manufactured 1962. This isn't consumption. This watch is still here. It works, it runs, it's enjoyable to wear. It's not consumption. That's the way out. Okay, but now let's come to the end of this video. The inspiration for this video was this book, The Dictator's Handbook. Amazon's algorithm recommended me that book. I don't know why. I've read it, it's great. Basically, the book is about power, how people come to power in democracies, in dictatorships, how they maintain their power. And There's an affiliate link in the description because I think this is a really important book, a really good read. It will change your view of the world, and you will not find it so pleasant, the new world you can see then, but I think it's important to be informed why bad behavior is almost always good politics. So big recommendation. And so, dear dictator, dear spy, dear neighbor, enjoy your luxury goods in good health to a reasonable extent. And now let me thank you very much for your attention, and maybe until next time.